Welcome to Nerds Amalgamated, a podcast that covers the latest events in science, pop culture, and gaming.
I'm the professor, aspiring game developer, sci-fi aficionado, and completely and undeniably a geek trying to take over the world. I'll be breaking down the news from tech to gaming.
I am the DJ, a humble nerd, a big weeb,
and a watcher from the halls of the multiverse.
Just kidding. Anyways, I'll be breaking down all things comics to movies to anime.
Join us and stay hydrated as we quench you with witty banter, unintentionally hilarious hot takes, and trivia more fun than a night at the pub, courtesy of Nerds Amalgamated.
Welcome to another episode of Nerds Amalgamated. What a beautiful day today is.
Too bright.
Yeah. I don't like what those teenagers doing outside right now with their cues and everything.
Oh, come on, you're not old enough to be that old.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Anyways, so this week we're talking about the recent news regarding the Nintendo Switch 2. The tariffs are coming to Hollywood, and brain-to-speech now becoming a reality, a big reality. So, Professor, kick us off with the news about the Nintendo Switch 2.
Well, I'm sure everyone's heard about the Switch 2 by this point, considering they've been announcing it for like 6 months now.
Did you see the Nintendo Direct that came out a few days ago?
No, I didn't watch it.
Oh, damn. It had some interesting, they gave out some interesting details. Like, how Nintendo Switch 2 is now just basically Discord with team chat.
Yeah, worse Discord.
And now you also have a camera as well.
Okay, I missed it. Oh yes, the Piranha Plant camera. I saw that. I was thinking a camera on the device, like a.
Oh yeah. That's true. And
yeah, I'm curious to see how they use that because I don't think the Switch 2 is going to be powerful enough to use it like a an iToy or a Kinect. Although I could be completely wrong with that. Considering the iToy is like how old? PlayStation 2 old.
Yeah, very, very old.
Yeah.
Yeah, the iToy came out in 2003.
Okay, so maybe they could do a
revamp?
Something like an iToy. But I haven't been following it there. I've been more interested in the actual hardware.
Yeah. They did discuss that one. They did discuss that too in the Direct as well. Like the Joy-Con controllers and how you could use it as a computer mouse.
Yep. Some games will support a computer mouse type device using one of the Joy-Cons.
Yeah. And also the how the new Joy-Cons will have strong magnets to fit it into place, the tablet device.
Yeah, apparently the rails were a common breakpoint for Switch controllers. The problem I see is that in all the footage I've seen of a magnetic Joy-Con, there's this little dongle end that it plugs into, and I see that as being the major failure point. I'm not convinced it's going to be any more robust than the original Switch controller rails. Because it looks like if you put them on wrong or twist them or anything, it's just going to snap off this little tab that it runs the communication.
Yeah.
And then you're not going to be able to use it docked.
Yeah.
And since the tab is on the Switch side, you're going to need to replace the console, not the Joy-Cons, if you break them.
Yeah. Then they also announced that the Nintendo Switch 2 has two USB points as well. One at the top and one at the bottom.
Yeah, that's not the exciting bit.
What else was there? They were also talking about. Oh, Mario Kart World.
Okay, now whose topic is this?
Yours. Sorry.
Yes.
I did watch the whole thing, unfortunately.
So it's going to be interesting. It's significantly more powerful, at least as they're advertising it.
Yeah.
Because it runs at 1080p in handheld mode compared to 720p. Runs up to 120 FPS and has an HDR LCD. Now, I don't know what the target frame rate, the maximum frame rate for the original Switch was, but I can tell you a lot of games never reached it, especially the bigger open world games.
Yeah, but they always pass off the illusion that it is 1080p, but it's not really 1080p, don't they?
What are you talking about? They
Like,
never pretended that the handheld was anything more than 720p.
yeah, like I had an idea because I thinking of like certain games on PC, for example, how they would say like, oh, it is 60p, but then sometimes they'll make it look like it's 60p, but it's not 60p.
Are you
FPS, I
talking
mean.
about hertz
Yeah, hertz. Yeah, yeah. The frame rates and
with
all.
frame gen?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think the Switch will have frame gen from what I've read so far. What's interesting though is that it can theoretically do 4K. I don't know what games are going to be compatible with 4K yet, but that's a huge jump up. The original Switch could only do 1080p docked.
I mean, 4K. I mean, 4K. It is the next level in graphics and whatnot. So it is the next big thing.
Yeah, but the Switch won't be able to run most 3D games at that level, is what I'm worried about. And it's doing the thing that phones can't, it has a headphone jack.
Yes, the almighty headphone jack. Oh Jesus! I find it amazing that Apple, Samsung, and they did it the whole the headphone jack, but Nintendo still has it going.
Yeah, I like Bluetooth headphones.
Hmm.
Well, I like headphones. I don't like earbuds because the earbuds are guaranteed e-waste within a couple of years because you can't replace the battery.
Yeah.
Headphones are you still can't, but it's easier than on an earbud. And they will also last longer because I've got a larger battery, so they don't degrade as quickly. But you still get a better experience with wired because Bluetooth adds in at least 50 milliseconds of latency. Like even the best Bluetooth headphones are limited to about 50 milliseconds.
And I think they in the Nintendo Direct they did talk about the whole sound quality and how it's they've they've done something new with it. They've added 3D surround as well.
Yep. Surround sound.
So
So
that's
that's an
gonna
upgrade from stereo.
yeah, and that's gonna really enhance the gaming experience. Although I'm not sure, although it's gonna be interesting how online play is gonna be like with the sound experience.
Well, it runs Wi Fi 6, so it's got plenty of bandwidth to run the game and video chat on the same side,
Hmm.
same network.
So aside from the pitfalls that you've addressed earlier on, what other pitfalls with the new Nintendo Switch console announcement?
Well, it's not directly backwards compatible. Nintendo has had a thing where they've traditionally had backwards compatibility in their handhelds and
Yeah,
even their consoles to an extent. But the Switch 2 is using a new chip, and a lot of what let them do extra backwards compatibility that was so perfect, so accurate to the original console, is that their newer consoles and handhelds would include a copy of the older console on the inside, and that lets you get really accurate emulation because you're basically running it on original hardware.
put a pin on that on the emulation part because I do have a question.
Well, I'm going to talk more about it.
Yeah.
They,
I want to address that separately, but address that one separately. But I do with the backwards compatibility. I agree with you there. Because they did announce on the direct that there was going to be Nintendo GameCube games are going to be added into the library.
yeah, they've been doing that for years now with Nintendo Switch Online. That's
Hmm.
pure emulation.
Yeah.
But the thing is, emulators are to the point now for these older consoles. You can get perfectly accurate or close enough emulation running on something like the Switch One. And can I just thank Nintendo for not calling it the new Switch?
The news. Oh Jesus! Why?
Do you not remember the new 3DS?
Oh yeah. I vaguely remember that. Oh shit, that was that was interesting. I could you for you know the law better than I do. Do tell them.
Well, Nintendo decided that an acceptable name for a new console would be the new old console name. And the problem with that is that it made it a pain in the ass to go and look for it at the shops. Because you could be like, yes, I want a new 3DS or I want a second-hand new 3DS.
Man, imagine being the shop owner and you've been told that, like, hey, I just want a new secondhand 3DS. Like, what?
Yeah. So anyway, the emulation, they've announced as of the 1st of April and are continuing to update throughout the month that of the first party games, there are only a couple that are not compatible. But there's a chart here in that we'll put in the show notes, an official Nintendo chart with terrible, terrible color choices.
Oh, damn.
I'm not colorblind, but the shades of blue are almost identical.
They could have gone at least it's blue and not green. Imagine if it was green. How bad would that have been?
Yeah, red green colorblindness would really kill you there.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, of the first party Nintendo games, there are 122 of those. It looks
Hmm.
like there's only one game which is entirely incompatible, and that's the Nintendo Labo Toy-Con 4 VR kit, because the Switch 2 is too big to fit in the Labo VR goggles.
Wow. Really? How much bigger are we saying here?
We go from 6.2 inches to 7.9 inches
Okay, that's
of
way
screen.
bigger. That's way bigger.
And then a few games require you to keep your Nintendo Switch Joy-Cons around because they
Hmm.
have features that the Nintendo Switch 2 doesn't have, like the IR receiver.
The crazy part with the emulation side is that this whole releases and the emulation side, this is coming off the back of what Nintendo has done to the emulators recently.
Yeah, it's a bit ironic that they're using emulation when they were so against it. On the other hand, this is an internal emulator, so it's not entirely hypocritical
Yeah.
that they own the IP, so they're allowed to make emulators for it. What is hypocritical is that I think it was the SNES Classic, they used a community made emulator, which was open source, so they were within their rights, but they then turn around and kill other community emulators.
Yeah, most famously the Yuzu emulator.
Yep. And the conspiracy theory was that that's because it would be really easy to make a Switch 2 emulator out of Yuzu. That doesn't seem to be the case because they're using a different chip and they need to use emulation.
You reckon the Yuzu people will start emulating as soon as the Switch 2 comes out? I reckon the minute it comes out, you're gonna see a lot of modders coming up with ways to crack it, and they'll crack it really quickly.
Someone will, sooner or later, someone's going to crack it.
But them do it, but yeah, but them the timing is weird though. Like them announcing the whole emulation right after like doing a big drive against emulators. Yeah, it felt too convenient to me.
What do you mean convenient?
Like you say that it's like oh we're just it's like I said it's like they do the shutdown and then they say like oh yeah we don't allow this to happen and then all of a sudden on just 3 days ago they go oh yeah we got our own emulation stuff now. Sorry, I might be reading too much into the weeds if I
Yeah, I
am.
think you're reading into it too much.
Yeah. But what will happen to the emulation market now that Nintendo's announced their own emulation with
Nothing.
nothing?
No. People are still going to be working on emulation for the Switch 1, and with any luck for them, Nintendo will be taking their eyes off it since they're about to release the Switch 2.
Yeah.
What's interesting is that they've got what they call Nintendo Switch 2 Edition games, which are Switch 1 games, which have been updated.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see what those are because they haven't said exactly what's going to be in there apart from improved graphics. But Kirby and the Forgotten Land is getting a new level, and Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is getting a crossover for its releasing on both consoles.
Yeah, here we go. So I've just looked it up on the Nintendo site. So you've got Super Mario Party Jamboree Nintendo Switch Edition with the Jamboree TV. You've got Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild Nintendo Switch Edition, 2 Edition. Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom and 2 Edition. Yeah, Kirby and the Forgotten Lands, Pokemon Legend ZA, Metroid Prime 4, as you said. And that's about it.
That's all they've announced so far, but it
Hmm.
wouldn't surprise me for them to keep announcing the future.
Yeah.
But there's no details on what that'll cost yet. And it's
Have you?
Nintendo, so for all we know, they might as well just sell it as a whole new game.
Speaking of costs, Interesting you
Yeah.
mentioned that. Have you seen the cost for it? The costs that in America, how much it's costing?
I have no idea what it's going to cost in America because of the
Last
tariffs.
yeah.
They've had to stop taking pre-orders because they don't know how much it's going to cost.
So in America, I've seen so far it is so for the console itself, $449.99. This is from the Nintendo site, by the way. But there is a Nintendo Switch 2 plus Mario Kart World bundle that's also costing $499 as well. And interestingly, a lot of people were complaining about the fact that the Mario Kart game is costing $70 apparently, and people are not happy about that.
Yeah, Nintendo are trying to increase the price of games.
Hmm.
Now, on one hand, I'm for that because games have been about the same price, not adjusted for inflation, for the past 40 or 50 years. On the other hand, distribution costs have come down a ton, and the cost of making games has gone up a ton because games are so much bigger and more expansive now. But who's going to rake in the extra money from the increase in games? Because wages haven't gone up that much in the last 50 years. Are they going to put that money that they make from selling the games for an extra, however much it works out to be when the final price is announced? Because they're advertising it at 80 USD. We don't know
Yeah.
if that's going to stay at 80 USD because of the tariffs. And then we don't know how that's going to affect the rest of the world because if Nintendo sees they can just put the price up in the US because of tariffs, they might just put it up in the rest of the world too because they're Nintendo.
Although
But the wages haven't gone up. So who's going to get the extra money? Is it the CEOs or the developers? I know what my money's.
Although, mind you, here's a funny thing. Apparently, Nintendo Switch 2 in Japan, it costs $100 less than Nintendo Switch 2 price in America. Or is it 300 or something? Yeah, 110. Yeah,
So converted to USD from yen.
yeah.
That's interesting.
And a lot of people are mad about mad about that as well.
Of
Is
course
how
they are.
like how could Japanese prices how could Japan have cheaper console prices than America?
It looks like it's Japanese only,
Yeah.
so it doesn't support other languages, which not a huge problem if a jailbreak comes out quickly. But it's region specific pricing, so it's also adjusted for the cost of living in each country. Which is why if you know what you're doing, you can buy games overseas for cheaper than you can get them at home. And why you occasionally hear stories about people going overseas to get plastic surgery.
Yeah, but there are always dangers to doing this sort of things. Is it not? Like you'll be breaking a lot of laws for
No,
one.
not really. There's not really a any laws to break in terms of going overseas to purchase items for personal use. It's only if you were trying to import them for sale that you would run into issues.
Okay, makes sense. But wouldn't it like let's say for example, I buy a Japanese version of Nintendo Switch 2. I go back home and I jailbreak it. Wouldn't that just void the warranty though? For if I were to send it for repairs and whatnot?
It would void the warranty, but warranty isn't law.
Ah,
I
yeah.
mean, legally, they have to, in Australia at least, they have to provide a certain length warranty, but no, you're not going to go to jail for doing something that breaches your warranty.
Yeah. Speaking of Australia, by the way, I did have a look at like EB Games, how much they're selling for the Nintendo Switch console in Australia. $699.95 for the console itself.
For the two or the original?
For the Nintendo Switch 2, yeah. And $769.95 for the bundle with Mario Kart World.
Okay, I probably won't be buying one at launch then.
Nope.
I'm. I mean, yeah, I won't be buying one at launch because there's just no killer app for it, and I don't have the money for it. In this economy,
Everything's so expensive.
yep.
Even going to the movies is so damn expensive.
Are you trying to segue?
Yes, I did.
What's expensive about the movie, Jay?
How can what can I say? So as you know, the tariffs not only affecting the consoles in America, but it's also affecting Hollywood. Uh, and because of the tariffs affecting Hollywood, we might see some potential challenges, which can be very significant, such as advertised revenue decline, including advertising budgets, which are crucial for media companies and streaming platforms. Streaming services under pressure, box office decline, such as movie theaters, will see a decline in attendance as discretionary spending tightens. The box office experienced a decline, with projections indicating further losses if tariffs persist. And this would also, and one of them would include higher upgrades due to the tariffs could be delayed, um, delay planning improvements.
That all makes sense to me.
And there's
I can't
also
imagine them making, like, even if they're making the projectors in the US, they're
yeah.
still building them based on parts imported from overseas.
What else have they also said? They've also said, uh, second, automotive, consumer goods, and food and beverages. Major advertisers are already cutting budgets. Traditional media advertising is likely to suffer more than connected or online video ads. Oh, and maybe down the track, we will never see the trailers of the we will never see ads on cinemas. You know those lousy 10-minute ads before a movie starts.
I doubt that would happen.
What else? What else might be affected? Companies like Disney and Live Nations are vulnerable to reduced consumer spending on tourism and live entertainment. Tariffs on construction materials could increase costs for parks expansions and development. Stock market volatility and antitrust scrutiny has stalled mergers and IPOs in media sector. And consumers are trading down in their spending habits, which could hurt subscription revenues and box office sales as entertainment becomes less affordable. So the alternative is free or low cost entertainment, which is gaining popularity during these hard times.
I wonder if this might be the end of movie theaters.
Oh, I wonder if this is the end of Hollywood itself. I mean, I reckon with these tariffs coming along, I reckon we might see another Hollywood strike in the horizon.
Why?
You know, just to protest against the government tariffs and whatnot.
I don't think that's how strikes work.
And I mean, sure, but then there is, like I said, people will still protest for anything. This will be one excuse to will protest.
Yeah, but you're not going to have a movie union protest against tariffs. You're going to have a
Yeah,
general protest against tariffs.
but yeah, it's interesting how the streaming services are going to be under pressure. I mean, if the cinema industry is suffering, that should be a boon for the streaming service, wouldn't it?
You'd think so.
Hmm.
If people can afford the streaming services because they keep putting that price up.
Oh yeah, I mean, what was it recently? Netflix was jacking up the price again, like for to $14 a month or something like that.
And that's for the ad plan. It used to be
Really?
you'd pay that much and get no ads.
Shit. What's gonna concern me is the fact that given all we've seen, given all the information I've put out here, you reckon we're gonna see the quality of the entertainment? You reckon it's gonna be lowered, or you reckon it's gonna be increased because of the pressure that Hollywood's facing?
I reckon the quality will probably stay the same.
Really?
Yeah, because the majority of what goes on in Hollywood is already in the US. I don't think it's going to affect the cost of making movies so much, apart from getting cheap props from overseas.
That's it. That's interesting you mention that because I wonder how other movie industries will be dealing with the tariffs as well. Like China and India as well. They rely on Hollywood as well for their revenue. I wonder how they're going to be dealing with the stress of the tariffs.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to affect them because the tariffs are one sided. It's for stuff coming into the US, not for stuff going out.
Yeah, that you mentioned that. I mean, yeah, I could see Chinese movies costing a lot more to air out and stuff in in the Western in America, for example, or Bollywood movies as well. It's gonna cost a lot more. But in terms of how it will affect people attending movie theaters, so there are some factors that people have to consider. So you've got reduced consumer spending, so people will not be going to the theaters that often. Higher ticket prices as well. Ticket prices are going to be very high. I mean, once upon a time, we used to go to cinemas and they were like $10. Now it's going to be jacked up to God knows how much.
Yep. The price of the movie tickets in the US specifically.
Yeah.
You're talking like we're Americans.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. I mean, yeah, that's true. And because of and because of all these, you will see a big shift, and you are seeing already a shift in the consumer behavior as well. As I previously, in terms of people instead of going to movie theaters, they would rather go to like either streaming sites or maybe just going to free to low cost entertainment options.
Yep.
So my big question would be for you, Professor, would be June 3. I wonder how the quality of that show will be like.
It'll be amazing.
I don't know, Professor. I don't know. Given what's happened with Snow White and how bad it's gone.
That's a Disney live action movie. It was never going to be good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Although, have you heard what happened as soon as that you said that though? They recently announced that because of the terrible performance of Snow White, Disney are halting all live action projects, all of them. And the most recent one was the Tangled live action movie. Apparently that's been halted. And I think you're gonna see more and more of these projects being shelved in the near future as well.
Probably.
Yeah, and you're gonna see a lot of movie fans mad. But on the plus side, at least at least people will see the wonders of science, such as brain to speech becoming a reality.
It's already a thing. It's just getting better.
Yeah, yeah, oh, yeah. So what's this about?
A new brain implant that can translate thoughts into words instantly. Previous implants would require you to basically finish your sentence and then they would begin translating. This new interface is able to do that within 3 seconds.
Oh, that's so awesome.
And they're using AI algorithms, so generative AI, to make the voice from the computer sound like her own voice based on video from her wedding.
Okay. So how's the is it a big success or a small success, or is it just
It's a big success because it makes the conversation flow so much better. Previously, you'd have to say something, wait for a response, think it, and then they describe it as more like a texting conversation.
oh yeah, and the lack of tone and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, but with this new study, they've improved the speech rate to between 47 and 90 words per minute compared to natural conversation, which is about 160 words. So even though it's not perfect yet, it's still a big improvement on previous models of brain computer interface.
So is this going to rival Elon's Neuralink chip, or is it better?
I think it's better than Elon's Neuralink because so far it hasn't gone through rejection. Like this is a improved external part. The internal part, which he's had for a few years now, hasn't gone through rejection. And so far Neuralink has had rejections all in all patients that I've heard
Yeah.
about.
Okay. But that being said, with this sort of success, there is bound to be side effects, wouldn't there?
I mean, only the side effects of having an electrode in your brain, which I'm not well versed in.
And plus with with the given with the patient technology implanted into her, it's going to be also interesting seeing like how we should to block out all the noise from the outside. For example, let's say for example if the AI picks up someone else's conversations, for example, while she's in a coffee shop.
No, the AI reads her brain directly.
Okay.
It doesn't it's not like having a microphone that'll pick up other people's speech. It's reading her brain directly and then turning that into words.
You reckon there'll be you reckon there'll be some ethical considerations looking into this project though?
Somewhat considerations?
Ethical consideration.
Only for standard ethical considerations for implanting electrodes into somebody's brain.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I
And
mean,
this one's already past testing, unlike Neuralink, which the horror stories from the testing of Neuralink, look them up if you dare.
oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah. So have they? So is it so? With this sort of experimentation, you reckon they'll go forward with sort of thing to other patients affecting brain-related injuries like strokes and whatnot?
Yeah, the patient in this study had a stroke. So that's why they came up with the implant and the algorithm that lets her speak again.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair enough. Anyways, we will take a short break and we'll be back with our shout outs and our wacky movie. This week we are sponsored by Res Energy Drink. Res.
Why do you keep doing that? It's creepy.
Oh, come on. Call it an echo effect, damn it.
I'm
yeah,
drinking
so
res right now.
oh, nice. So, Rez, it's focus and energy formula for the long game. It's crafted from traditional herbs and quality extracts. It relieves fatigue and eye strain, supports eye health, supports mental endurance and stamina to give you hit points in real life. And for a special offer, you can get this for a cheaper price once you type in the words NRDS 15. That's Nerds 15 onto the site, and you'll get a 15% discount. That's 15% discount, folks. Res, don't leave home without it. Anyways, on to our shout out. On the 29th of March 2025, it's the 20th anniversary of Tom Clancy Splinter Cell Chaos Theory. You've played this game, right, Professor?
I've played the first few levels.
What do you think of it so far?
It's a good game. Better than Splinter Cell, whatever they blacklist from 2013 or whenever.
Yeah, 2013. Wow, you're good. You're pretty accurate with the dates this time around. But yeah, this game was developed by Ubisoft Montreal and Ubisoft Milan and was released for the GameCube, PlayStation 2, Windows, and Xbox in March 2005. This was a sequel to Splinter Cell Pandora Tomorrow and the third game in the Splinter Cell series, endorsed by novelist Tom Clancy. The game has significantly darker tone than its predecessors, featuring more combat and the option for Fisher to kill people he interrogates instead of merely knocking them out. The game features significant changes and improvements to the series' basic gameplay. It's also the first game in the Splinter Cell series to use ragdoll physics. Chaos Theory adds a combat knife to Sam's close quarters combat abilities, and Sam can use this knife in multiple ways, such as threatening an enemy in interrogation, killing an enemy in close quarters combat, breaking door locks as opposed to picking them, or piercing gas tanks on generators to aid his stealth operation. Chaos Theory also features competitive and cooperative multiplayer. The cooperative mode expands by allowing two agents to play through a unique 7-mission story mode that parallels the single player campaign. It is playable via System Link or over Xbox Live. In Splinter Cell Chaos Theory Versus mode, two additional gameplay modes have been added to the game. New game modes include Disc Manhunt, consists of spies grabbing discs placed throughout the game, and then returning the disc to the extraction point. And the other game mode is Deathmatch, which consists of killing players on the opposing spies or mercenaries. This game was considered one of the greatest games ever made. A remastered HD edition was bundled with the first two games of the series as part of the Splinter Cell trilogy. And interestingly, the graphics on Chaos Theory features several the addition of normal mapping, HDR lighting, and parallax mapping. This game had a development budget of $10 million and a marketing budget of $10 million. And around 300 people worked on the game at its peak. Do you have any fun memories with that game, by the way? I mean, even though you played a couple of levels.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the multiplayer mode, the co-op mode.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's what I spent most of my time playing when I did play it.
Maybe I see you must have screamed a lot at the other guy, hey, when you were playing co-op mode, like, come on, let's just stick to the path, okay? Let's just stick to the path and not stray from it.
No,
So no fun stuff happened?
yes, fun stuff happened. It's a game.
I know. I meant like no fun stuff like your other guy could fuck up the low things kind of thing.
Yeah,
And make
everyone could screw up.
yeah, yeah. But never on Splinter Cell, hey.
No, I was playing with someone competent, unlike you.
Uh-huh. Very funny. Moving along, on the 1st of April 2025, Val Kilmer passed away. He's Val Kilmer, he was initially a stage actor. He found fame as a leading man in films in a wide variety of genres, including comedies, dramas, action, adventure, westerns, films, crime drama, science fiction films, and fantasy films. Films in which Kilmer appeared grossed more than $3.8 billion worldwide. People will remember Val Kilmer as Iceman in Top Gun and also as Batman in Batman Forever. In 2015, Kilmer was diagnosed with throat cancer. He subsequently underwent a tracheal procedure that damaged his vocal, leaving him with severe difficulty speaking. He also underwent chemotherapy and 2 tracheotomies and died of pneumonia in 2025. But there are some interesting trivia about Kilmer. One such trivia includes he didn't want to appear in Top Gun, but was forced to do so due to contractual obligations. And before he was selected for Batman in Batman Forever, he was in the Kalahari Desert in Africa researching a story he was writing about witch doctors. And I don't know whether you also know this, but he was also the guy that played as Moses in The Prince of Egypt.
Yeah, I've never seen that, but he got around.
Yeah, yeah. On the 3rd of April 2025, it's the 50th anniversary of Monty Python and the Holy Grail. That's a great movie. You've seen it?
Who hasn't?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, this was a 1975 British comedy film based on the Arthurian legend, written and performed by Monty Python comedy group and directed by Gillian and Jones in their feature directorial debuts. It was conceived during a hiatus between the third and fourth of their British TV show, Monty Python's Flying Circus. So, this movie is considered the greatest comedy film of all time. And in January 1963, Monty Python's troupe wrote the first draft of the screenplay. Half of the material was set in the Middle Ages and half in the present day. They decided to set the film during the Middle Ages and focus on the legendary Grail. By the fourth and fifth draft, the story was complete, and the cast joked that the fact that the Grail was never retrieved would be a big letdown, a giant anticlimax. Graham Chapman said a challenge was incorporating scenes that did not fit the Holy Grail motif.
Yeah, I can't think of a single scene in that movie that doesn't work.
That's true. And neither Jones nor Gilliam had directed a film before, so this was a big learning experience for them. According to Gilliam, the Pythons turned to rock stars like Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin for financing because no studio would fund the film, and the rock stars saw it as a quote a great tax write-off because the top rate of UK income tax was quote as high as 90%. Idle and Gilliam had previously mentioned that Elton John also contributed to the financing of the film. According to a 2021 tweet by Eric Idle, it was revealed that the entire original budget was £175,000, £175,350, $410,000 in 1984, and was provided by 8 investors: Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, Jethro Tull's Ian Anderson, Michael White, the Heartaches, a cricket team founded by lyricist Tim Rice, and 3 record companies: Island Records, Chrysalis Records, and Charisma Records, the record label that had released the Python's early comedy album. The investors also received part of the proceeds for the 2005 musical Spam-A-Lot. On the DVD audio commentary, Cleese described challenges shooting and editing Castle Anthrax in, quote, The Tale of Sir Galahad, with what he felt the most comedic take being unused because an anachronistic coat was visible in it. Castle Anthrax was also shot in one part of Dwayne, where the comedy designer Hazel Pethig advised against nudity dressing the girls in shifts. What was your favorite scene in the entire movie, by the way, Professor?
That's a hard question to answer.
Oh, mine would be the rabbit, the killer rabbit.
Yes.
Apparently, the scene where the knights had to fight that rabbit, was filmed in a Tom Dawson mine, and a real white rabbit was used, switching with puppets for the killings. The bite effects were done with special puppetry by both Gilliam and special effects technician Jim Horton. According to Gilliam, the rabbit was covered with red liquid to simulate blood, though the owner did not want the animal dirty and was kept unaware. The liquid was difficult to remove from the fur. Gilliam also stated that he thought, in hindsight, the crew would have just purchased their own rabbit instead. Regardless, the rabbit itself was unharmed. When the movie screened at the Cannes Film Festival, the audience laughed at the opening credits. However, the projector stopped, and the audience just roared with laughter, thinking it was all part of this movie. It turned out it was a bomb scare, and firemen came in and made everyone in the cinema go outside.
Who would
Oh,
bomb threat the pythons?
oh no. Was Life of Brian before Holy Grail or after Holy Grail?
No idea. What year did you say Holy Grail was?
Holy Grail was 1970.
Okay, that's before Life of Brian then.
Okay, yeah. See, if it was after Life of Brian, that would make sense. You know, a bunch of angry Christians would do something dodgy like that. But if it's before Life of Brian, then during the one of the first live screenings of movie in front of a live audience, co-writer and co-director Terry Jones noticed that when music was played during the jokes, there was a marked reduction of laughter from the audience. He went back and edited the music out whenever a punchline was delivered. At subsequent screenings, he noticed a dramatic increase in audiences' positive reaction to the jokes. From that point on, whenever he directed, he remembered to stop the music for all the funny parts. John Cleese and Terry Gilliam performed all their stunts during the duel between the Black and Green Knight. They had to learn to manage big and heavy swords and to do some acrobatics, though never being recognizable, wearing heavy armor and full helmets. They avoided the use of stuntmen because as they said in commentaries, they had a lot of fun in enacting the duel.
That reminds me of the guy who played Gimli when they did fight scenes in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
They were supposed to, be gentle with the stuntman, but he would go absolutely wild.
Okay, how wild are we saying here? Like with
I think he
bruises and
caused a few injuries.
oh shit! Wow. Yeah, the movie's abrupt ending came about because it didn't have a budget for a large-scale battle sequence. For the Japanese release, the Holy Grail was translated "Holy Sake Cup." Yeah. The theatrical release contained 527 jokes, including 42 in the opening credits, for an average of one joke every 10 and a half seconds. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, not as many as Airplane, I think,
Okay.
but it's close.
Airplane, someone did a Reddit count. 271 jokes.
Yeah, and what's that per second?
That would make, so he says, to the best of my ability, I counted exactly 271 jokes. That would make an average of 3.079 jokes per minute for the entirety of the film.
Okay. I do remember a study where someone did where they found Airplane to be the most the funniest movie ever made.
Yeah, I like how both the Airplane and the Holy Grail, they both have jokes that are so relevant even to this day, and they both aged well as well in their comedy.
Yeah, mostly those movies have aged pretty well.
So, Professor, what? Oh, before we go for our messed up moments, I've got one more shout out to add. On the 5th of April 1970, Carrie, the first novel by Stephen King, is published for the first time with a print of 3,000 copies. You've heard of the story of Carrie, right?
Who hasn't?
The movies were crazy. But yeah, this was the King's debut novel that helped launch his career and achieve a mainstream success. It also has been credited in reviving mainstream interest in the horror fiction genre and being influential among contemporary horror writers. The 3 film adaptations have been released, with one getting a sequel and a musical adaptation that was released in 1988. How could you do a Carrie musical?
People
How?
will make musicals of anything.
Yeah, but what songs are you? What song are you gonna sing if once you get the bucket of red paint poured all over you? And are you gonna sing while you're massacring people in the theater? And not
Probably.
in the theater. Oh, that's so stupid. Yeah. Carrie is an example of supernatural and gothic fiction, and as part of the epistolary novel, the narrative is organized around a framing device consists of multiple narrators and a collection of reports and excerpts in approximate chronological order. It's been argued that this structure is used to indicate that no particular point, scientific or otherwise, can explain Carrie and the prom night event. Is this the is so? Does this give birth to the whole idea of the unreliable narrator trope, or is that
No,
go
that
does
goes back a long way.
Okay. So, Carrie deals with themes of ostracism, bullying, coming of age, and the consequence of not conforming to societal norms. A driving force of the novel is Carrie's first period in the shower. Following the massacre, Sue is subject to the same as Carrie, despite her altruistic motives. John Carrigan and Victoria Madden have both observed that throughout the novel, Carrie is often associated with the pig, which is often considered disgusting animal. Another theme is vengeance, where Carrigan is Carrie to be an example of a revenge tragedy. Some scholars have argued that Carrie is a social commentary about disaffirmation. I'm really terrible.
You are. You
Uh
always
huh.
are.
Oh yeah. Hey, you're terrible as well. Don't
Better
blame
than
me for.
you.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. Yeah, so although Carrie was marketed as an occult novel, trade reviewers call it a horror novel, unusual for the time. How is this one an occult novel? Because aren't occult novels a totally different genre?
I could see how it would fit in a cult.
Like I, but then like if you look at the meaning for the occult, like it's supernatural, mystical, magical powers. It's not really magical powers. Like telekinesis is not magical.
Yes, it is.
Okay, if you had with Carrie, I think it wasn't like was a freak of nature in a sense.
Still magical.
I beg to.
Unexplained by science.
Yeah, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, but with magic and mysticism, there has to be there like for telekinesis, there has to be like the whole magical totem to power the individual's telekinetic abilities, kind of thing.
No, there doesn't.
Doesn't?
No. I have no idea where you're getting these ideas from.
Uh-huh. My knowledge of comic books and anime.
Is this where we reveal you have no knowledge?
No, not really. Anyways, what's that messed up moment in nerddom this week,
Have you ever
Professor?
heard of Biosphere 2?
No, no, I haven't.
So, in the 90s, a scientific group put together what they called Biosphere 2, Biosphere 1 being the Earth. And the idea was it would be basically a giant greenhouse with a closed ecosystem. And you'd be able to lock people in there for years and have no exchange from the inside to the outside.
So basically, the Big Brother house.
That, but more extreme.
Oh crap!
So point of the experiment was basically to test whether you could create a closed ecosystem, which also has potential for space exploration.
Okay, okay. What were the results?
Not great. They had some major issues with things dying off that weren't supposed to die off, carbon dioxide overload, cockroach infestations. Almost every species in the biodome died, even though
Wait,
there were, it was almost every animal or insect species died. The plants were
real,
fine.
really?
Yep.
Fucking hell! Wait, what animals did they put in there?
Mostly small vertebrates and pollinating insects.
Okay.
And psychologically, it wasn't easy for the people.
Wait, how many people were involved in this?
The aim was to house 8 people at a time.
Okay. Okay, that's a fair number. Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Well, how did that?
The people who had been intimate friends became implacable enemies.
Oh shit!
Yep. So best friends became enemies because they were locked in a room together with a bunch of cockroaches.
I mean, there is a bountiful food supply, the cockroaches and all.
Yeah, you could theoretically eat the cockroaches. People
Eh,
don't want to do that though.
I know, yeah, yeah. There's the yuck factor. Yeah, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
fair enough. Yeah, but still, yeah, but still, too. Yeah, so was it like a accumulated thing that they from friends to enemies, or was it just a sudden occurrence?
I understand it took a little while,
Man.
but being locked in a confined space with doesn't do the best for your relationships. We know this from other places like Antarctic expeditions. But the Time magazine wrote that the veneer of credibility, bruised by allegations of tamper prone data, secret food caches, and smuggled supplies, has cracked. The 2 year experiment in self sufficiency is starting to look less like science and more like a $150 million stunt.
Oh no!
Yes, the
This
Scientific Advisory Committee, eventually dissolved because they couldn't come to an agreement over how the science should be run.
I wonder what happened to the 8 people after this whole entire saga. Like, did they like go back to normal, or did they
Yeah, like they were fine when they were allowed to.
leave and stuff?
Yeah, I don't know about their relationships and if that improved, but yeah.
You know what this reminds me of? Do you remember the episode in Red Dwarf where Rimmer got crazy with power because he was infected with the virus, and he forced
Oh yes.
Lister, Cat, and Crichton to go into quarantine for 5 months?
Yep.
And then a week later, they're all acting like they all started to kill each other.
Yeah.
And Lister was trying to do the whole "we're going to make it," and the Cat and Crichton were like, "And don't say we're going to make it." And Crichton going, "Stupid, whimsical optimism, win grit." And I'm like, "Oh man."
Yeah. So anyway, the oxygen level fell from 20.9% down to 14.5%. So that goes from about the level at sea level down to the level of an elevation of 4 kilometers. So because that was starting to have medical effects on people, they decided to inject oxygen into the facility.
With the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, that's like carbon. They'd be suffering from carbon dioxide poisoning, wouldn't they?
No, but the levels are high enough that I believe they would have suffered from having a what's the word, impaired cognition. Because in winter, CO2 levels reach as high as 4,500 parts per million.
And let me guess, because of the impact in a lot of people, that could contribute to why people not doing so well in their course.
Yeah, it could. So, anyway, that was the first mission. Yes, they ran a second mission, which was going to be much shorter, which went much better. They'd done a whole bunch of work to stuff like they painted the concrete to stop it absorbing carbon dioxide that was required for the photosynthesis, and the second crew reached efficient self sufficiency in food production.
Oh, okay, sounds promising.
Yep. Uh, Less than a month in, the management team were fired by the US government and replaced by Steve Bannon, whose name you might recognize as being one of Trump's lackeys.
Are you kidding me?
I'm
No.
not. It's that Steve Bannon, the Gamergate.
The right
Yeah,
wing guy. Yeah, 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 yeah. Are you kidding me? Wow. How did he get involved in this?
I'm not entirely sure. He ran an investment banking team and was hired by financiers who were who were funding the project to basically turn it around because it wasn't making enough money for them. But because Bannon was hired, some of the former crew members, flew back to Arizona to break into the compound to warn the crew members that he would jeopardize their safety.
Imagine that, like your first crew decides to your that's a sign of your project is gonna get your project is fucked if your if your first crew decides to jump in to save the others.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
And then in June, so 3 months after the project began, the second mission began, the company Space Biosphere Ventures was dissolved,
Yeah.
and it basically fell apart, and they had to end the mission prematurely on September 6th. And Steve Bannon eventually left the project after being sued with a civil lawsuit for abuse of process by the former crew members who had broken in to warn the current mission.
Damn. That's Bannon was involved in this.
Yeah. I mean, when one of the plaintiffs submitted a 5-page complaint, he promised to shove the complaint down her throat.
Oh no! Oh Jesus Christ! What the hell, man?
Yeah, so it turned into a huge mess.
Okay,
And yeah,
okay. I was gonna say, oh no, you first. You first.
well,
Sorry.
it turned into a huge mess and eventually was uh, the management was replaced by a university and ran it as a research site, but they never did another sealed experiment. They converted it to a flow through system and manipulated carbon dioxide levels for global research and found out that coral reefs do not like atmospheric CO2. So there
What?
was some good science that came out of this. It was just a horrible mess of a closed system experiment.
Okay, I was gonna ask you. So, even though like we've seen the shit that happened outside, like the that happened at the top of the top of the organization part, do you reckon this sort of experiment is a good thing though in the end?
Yeah, it. There's other experiments that have been done with closed systems since then that have done much better, and yeah, I think it's an important part of research to produce a future space program.
Fair enough. And on to our wacky movie on the 5th of April 2013. Bounty Killer premiered in the US. This was shown to audiences in attendance of a Dallas International Film Festival. Written in part and directed by Henry Sane, the apocalypse thriller starred Matthew Marsden, Christiane Loken, and Christian Petrie. Here, the plot summary goes like this. It's been 20 years since the corporations took over the world's government. Their thirst for power and profits led to the corporate wars, a fierce global battle that laid waste to society as we know it. Born from the ash, the Council of Nine rose as a new law and order for this dark age. To avenge the corporation's reckless destruction, the Council issued death warrants for all white-collar criminals. Their hunter, the Bounty Killer. From amateur savage to graceful assassin, the Bounty Killer now compete for body count, fame, and a fat stack of cash. They're ending the plague of corporate greed by exterminating the self-serving CEO and providing the survivors of the apocalypse with retribution. These are the new heroes. This is the age of the Bounty Killer. The premise.
Yeah, it's a bit close to home considering events in the US recently.
Uh-huh. I bet
But
you
Mad Max hunting down CEOs is an interesting premise.
Dude, if this happens in real life, you and I are gonna have a long conversations about about this.
Yep.
But yeah, this whole premise was based on a graphic novel that was published on Kickstarter in 2013. And interestingly, Sane's original works were closer to the tone of Road Warrior and were modeled after the Enron scandal. And after the financial crisis of 2007 and 2008, Sane realized that a feature-length adaptation would be even more timely. The feature film's tone was influenced by Ice Pirates, Six String Samurai, and Death Race 2000. Although explicit themes of retrofuturism were eventually dropped, as they were believed to be too confusing for audience to understand, the film's setting still makes the use of the aesthetic. For example, the cars were all from the 1970s, and much of the technology is analog. Shooting took 18 days, although the crew were fond of practical effects, they did not have the opportunity to make extensive use of them due to the fast production schedule. And many of the cars used in the film were either donated or made available at low cost. Yeah, I can imagine it. I can imagine this in real life. Imagine Elon Musk being chased by Teslas.
Well, if Tesla self-driving ever becomes a thing, can you imagine someone? Actually, wasn't that a plot point in Fast and Furious? One of those movies, somebody hacked all the self-driving cars and made them crash into things.
I don't think so. It was one of the scenes. Yeah, the car hacking. It was Fast and Furious 8.
It's also in Daniel Suarez. Yes, I'm mentioning him again
Oh
in his novel Demon,
yeah. Yep.
which is about a game developer who dies, but before he dies, he sets up an AI that like the first bit of the book is the AI basically cleaning up anyone who knows about it by having them assassinated or murdered. And the AI grows and learns, and I'm not going to spoil it, but it's a really good book, and the sequel's really good too.
Okay. I also had an interesting idea. Can you imagine the Amazon drones being chased by Jeff Bezos?
You mean the other way around?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Jeff Bezos I'll just say Jeff Bezos's drones being chased by chasing Jeff Bezos. That's what I was
You
talking about.
said drones being chased by Jeff Bezos.
Oh, right.
I
Okay.
can't imagine Jeff Bezos running around going, "Drones, come back!" But I can imagine a hacked drone flying after Jeff Bezos.
Oh yeah. Although imagine Jeff Bezos going, "I am your creator. You cannot kill me." I can say that with Elon. You can say the same with Elon Musk. Anyways, on that filthy note, where can they find us, Professor?
Everywhere. And
Hey,
check out our Discord where you can chat with us, and we'll have a link to that in the show notes.
hey, nice one. So stay happy, stay nerdy. See you guys.
Look after yourselves, stay hydrated, and we'll see you next time.
Here we go!